Right then, here we go. Pretty simple. Him. Throttle body. I did remember, and thanks to Autodoc by the way, I did remember to get the gasket, and I've put it in and it fits perfectly. So and I got a Pierberg to replace the Pierberg, and just gotta hope that it all goes tickety-boo. So, can you see it? Yes. So, not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just 3 screws. This one is spinning back like it should do when you let go of it. My one isn't, and so basically some sort of a hexagonal there. And I'm wondering how to take this off. I don't think it just pulls. No, it doesn't. No point me doing anything if I can't get that off. So I'm not really. Oh, that seems to do something. That seems to do something. Oh, right, I'm happy with that. That's a start. The next step, I don't know if this comes right out or if it just pulls away. It looks like it just pulls away. Obviously I don't want to drop it, because that would be a game changer. Sort of telling myself I don't want to take this bit off. I suppose it might be better just to get it out of my way. Change my mind, it's going back on again. It's giving me ag. Oh, here we go. Let's do it from here. So the thing that I don't like is that this I know what I've got to do, I just don't want to do it because it seems like it's not really going to move out of the way. I suppose I can see that this is going to come out completely. I just don't want to, as you can imagine, I definitely don't want to drop it and lose it forever. But I'd rather it stayed on that thing to clip back in. I don't know the answer to that at the moment. Think about it, come back to it. I need a talks. the thing is, oops, what am I doing? I'm really not very well equipped for this. I might even just abandon this and give it to someone else to do, because already I suspect I'm not going to be able to get to this. Annoying. With the tools that I have, I'm so expecting to, I'm literally expecting to drop. God, it's so annoying. Drop something down into the engine bay. So basically, it means I've got one there and one there to get at. How the hell would I get at that? With the inlet in the way. I have to have just the right length extension, and I don't even have an extension. I don't know where it is. No idea where that's gone. Okay, let's think about this for a second. That's problem is getting the two that are under this pipe. This pipe doesn't seem to want to come out. I don't want to lose that clip. You probably don't have to take that clip completely off of this, but I definitely don't want to drop it down there. And this has got to pull out of the way, and you've got to get access to this one and the two underneath. And it's annoying because it's a simple little thing, but getting access is not so simple. So, don't know, at the moment it might be time to phone a friend. Right, it's looking like I might have somebody to do it for me on Monday. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Personally, got to wriggle this thing free if I can, which it kind of won't. Just don't. I should be doing really, not wriggling this free. What I should be doing is seeing what I can get in there. That's. This pipe is behaving just about how I thought it would, where it sort of doesn't really want to move. And then even if it did, would I be able to get in there? I'm just feeling now to see. I don't think I can. So, summary. Basically, the problem I've got is that this, or in fact, this throttle body, this is the new one. The old one is showing an error. I'm having trouble getting any revs. It's not regenerating the DPF. So I'm getting that build up. I'm really down on power now, like struggling to get up hills and stuff now. Now normally this spring for the butterfly, it springs back. When it springs back, it's closed, and then of course you can't start the car now because it's not getting any air. Or maybe it will get air elsewhere, not really sure. But anyway, it's not springing back. I'm thinking that the fact that it's not springing back is a secondary problem that's meaning I can still drive the car. Because when it was completely shut, I couldn't start it. Even I had an RIC guy put some easy start through the air intake, nothing. So there's something wrong with the actuator, the electronic side of it, or the electromechanical side of it. But in addition to that, the butterfly valve itself isn't springing back, but that I think gives me at least the opportunity to drive it somewhere to get it sorted. It's only well, you unclip the electric side. There's this clamp here that you pull out, which can stay, supposed to stay with the pipe, but it should, because if you look on here, it goes in there. So the hose comes on like that. So you pull the pin out, it releases it, you should be able to wriggle the hose free. But then I've got to get under there and under there, as well as the top one. And I've probably got something else I could use, but even the top here sits too high for me to get something in there. So it's going to be, I'm thinking, the same on the bottom. And don't know where my extension is. Or I've got a few of them dotted around. They're usually in one place. They're not there. So if you then look, if I have too long an extension, I won't be able to get the head on. If I have too short, it won't clear this. So it's got to be just the right length. I found back in the day that you'd end up using two of them, a tiny one and a not so tiny one, or a medium one and a tiny one, or something like that. Use different extensions till you get something that can get in there, and then you can get on with it. But I'm not in the best of health right now, and I'm basically at the side of the road doing it. So you put all of that lot into the mix, and there's one of two things that you can do. You can do a full send, as in commit, just get stuck in and make it happen, which could include some drama of dropping things down there somewhere, which I really don't fancy, or leave it to someone who can do it. And well, I've explained now how you do it. I tell you how you do it. You get your phone out, get your phone book, you type in your favourite contact, you press call, and you ask them what their availability is and if you can get a rough idea on the cost. That's what you do. Unless you are braver than I seem to be these days. So it's annoying because it's just 3 bolts, but getting access to them is a job for someone with a whole bunch of credentials, which I'm not currently, rocking. Yeah, I'm not rocking those credentials right now. So I'm thinking, it just spat at me again. Don't know what it did, something clicked a word. I might give it a little, don't know why it's buzzing at me now. I might move the whole vehicle anyway, but I think I'm going to leave it. Because I could even have a time now where I'm going to spend ages trying to get this thing back on, and maybe split the hose in the meantime. And it's really annoying. It's really annoying. I can cut all this crap out, I suppose, from this little clip, but I gotta say, it's like, if you're talking about football and, you know, you get into your 50s and your knees have gone, and that's how it is. You just have to put up with it. But sort of sliding down into retirement on this sort of thing is a bit it's not humiliating. It's probably the brightest thing is it's disappointing because it's like a kid at Christmas, and then the thing arrived last week. I was in bed ill, so this has been my first opportunity, and I can't even sort of engage and get it done. Shame. So, I hate to say it. Alright, one little try. See, it is moving. It's just not being nice enough. I'm going to leave it Monday, because I can tell you what I'll be thinking with that clip down there somewhere, unable to get at the bolts, and maybe a split in this hose from having gotten it off. All that's going to be going through my head is Monday. Could have had the weekend off. I don't really want the weekend off. I want to fix my car. Annoying, the guy that I spoke to said he can do it Monday. He said he can't do it today. I think he's expecting to have to get the part. So maybe he could have done. But anyway, he said turn up Monday and I'll look after you. Can't ask fairer than that, can you? I've had them do other things for me. But when I went there asking about this, the guy wasn't there. It was somebody else who was there. And the guy started saying to me that I should get rid of the car. Why spend any money on it? Okay, mate, thanks for that. It's not as if it was like a main dealer I took it to. I could understand those idiots saying it. But this was a guy who probably drives something worse than my car. Anyway, imagine that. Imagine training a bunch of guys, getting them onto the pitch, ready to face the opponent. You look at the opponent and say, guys, you're not good enough to be on the pitch with these guys. Come on, back in the change room, get dressed, going home. I mean, what they're getting to take down to the pub with them is like zero satisfaction, mild amount of humiliation. We weren't even allowed to try to play them. Yeah. So I'm calling off. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm pretty sure I'm calling off the dogs on this, and it's going to be a Monday thing. I might get to film the guy, maybe not, but I've shown you how to do it. If you fancy having a go at it, go for it. Leave me some comments, be nice to me. I'm feeling very tender. Oh my god, this is not cool, is it? I used to be a sprayer, right? And I started off like most lads in backstreet garages, so then you'd be stripping and fitting the cars, you'd be doing the body work, you'd be painting them, masking, unmasking, flat polishing, you'd be doing everything. I've built a few engines, I've taken things to part, do you know what I mean? And I look at this, and it's almost like it's out of reach for sensible reasons, but I'm not really sensible. But I'm not probably skilled enough or lucky enough to overcome my lack of sensibleness. Perhaps the luckiest thing that happens to me today is that I confidently and happily decide not to take this on. Perhaps that could be the best. I look back and think, give myself a pat on the back and say, well done, rather than like, oh, it's got to be done. I've got some really silly stories on when I just couldn't let it lie, you know, like most of us have. I'm going to leave it for now. I'm going to think about it, and for the third time I'm going to wipe this gunk off my hands. It's done barely nothing, but it's probably going to be a no from me. So am I forgiven for not taking it on by the side of the road by myself?
Definitely. I wouldn't even take that on by the side of the road. Well, well done for trying.
Well, thank you. I haven't got any money.
Well, I'm off then.
No, I'm gonna have to leave it, and
Yeah, I would.
Monday's not so long. I haven't got to move it today or tomorrow anyway now. So if I rock up Monday with the part in my hand,
There you go, got that on.
there goes 40 quid of his profit. Do you know what I mean? See you later. See you later. Well, there you go, from a neighbour who's they've bailed me out so many times, not with mechanical work, but just as neighbours, you know. He is still a sprayer. He sprays for quite a well-known car restoration company who have their own channel, actually. I'm not sure if I can mention them or not. But anyway, he actually came up with a good point. He said that maybe the clip's not quite clear in the EGR here. It looks so easy, doesn't it? It's not that much more difficult than easy either. It's kind of it's just inside the relegation zone, you know what I mean, by goal difference, or maybe even a point or two, but that's enough. It's like you got to go out and your first game in charge, you got to get 3 points or we're doomed. And it's like, who else is on your list? Can I be the assistant? Can I give you some of my points of view? That's how I feel about it. It's like just out of range. Hello. I'm gonna have to give up. You're gonna witness me giving up.
Oh no.
Thank you very much. Bye. Bye. Well, a neighbour now has offered to lend me any tools I think I might need. Do you know what? Doing it is better than maybe doing it. But probably best of all is not doing it right now. That was a neighbour who had a couple of classic cars. In fact, now I remember the cars that he had. That was his wife. And unfortunately he passed away. But she said he had everything for everything and he hated giving up too. And I'm thinking that these days on these cars, so much is electronics. Yeah, you can swap them out if you can get to them. But every so often, this is an electronic thing, but it's mechanical in terms of fitting it. It's swapping it out, you know, it's just undoing something, putting something in, and there you go. It's not like I'm doing the timing chain or whatever, you know, a turbo or something, which I just wouldn't even attempt. Even the glow plugs, me doing on this, and the controller, I'm not even going to do that. But this is just the right. This is pitched just the right way for me personally to not be able to simply dismiss it or tuck into it. It's like agonizing. It's like on a tightrope of like. It's not just the fact of having it done now, the adventure, and what a nice gesture from a neighbour as well. And yeah. Which, by the way, maybe I shouldn't say this, but you don't really tend to get too much of that. Where here, you know, don't even normally get too much of a hello in the street. So, I'm not really trying to make a blog, but these things always end up being about me. Maybe I just have to edit everything out. But it's always fun and games when I do stuff. It's never. There's no way I was going to be back inside right now with a big smile on my face saying, I can't believe how easy that was. And thinking of places to go and play with my car, go and drive it. Where do I want to dump all the DPF regeneration? Probably right on the border of the ULEZ zone, just sit there, reverse up to camera and just sit there and let the DPF regenerate. But yeah. Oh dear. My neighbour was right. Yeah, he was right. I'm not going to get that back on again. If I get that off. He is right. About the doesn't need to come out. Well, we got my neighbour. Wouldn't it be nice if the top was a bolt and the bottom two were just clips and you undo the top bolt and you just lever it out and lift it up out of the way? But that's not what it is. So anyway, now with that done, I can't even feel where these are. That must be it there. Right, I tell you what, that's really good. It sounds weird what I'm about to say, but I'm not going to do it. I'll tell you why. Because there are pipes in the way. There's a pipe in the way there. And that's, I think, a coolant pipe, and I definitely don't want to get involved in all of that and bleeding and everything. Might even be easier to see it from underneath. So I think I'm not going to do it. Really lovely offer from a neighbour there, and a nice bit of advice from another neighbour who's used a bit of observation. I was too busy worrying about it to observe. Nice philosophical, whatever the word is. Nice philosophical statement or concept. Too busy worrying about it to observe it. So here I am. Well, I got it back on easy enough. It looked like I've done some work, don't I? Yeah, that's fine. What's that? Oh, wouldn't it be so nice if that was the new one? Well, it's Monday. I think I'm just going to clean my hands a bit and move the camera around. So, what I can say is that you need to get your eyes on a job, don't you, in order to be able to see what it is you've got to do, and then you need to be able to get in there with whatever you need in order to do it. You know, the right tool, and you need your eyes to suss that one out. So then normally what will happen is you'll go through different bits of kit that you have to see, oh, can I get anything on there? Let me try this, let me try that. Oh, right, I've got one on there. What about this one? Yep. That one, no good me starting until I have a solution for all 3 bolts, sort of thing. And then this is like, in an ideal world, this is what you do, you know? So you look at it, you think, right, that's what I have to undo. Have I got one of those? Yep. Can I get in there? Yep. What about this one? Yeah. And then what? Just come off? Yep. Fine, yeah, I can do it. Let's do it. So here, I'm a little bit unsighted. I'm a little bit uncertain of my own, well, luck actually, but I wasn't going to say it. I'm a little bit uncertain of my own tools. What do I have? I mean, that state that I got to, I can get to in seconds now. You know, I nearly didn't. I pulled off one of the hoses, but then I looked again. I thought it'd probably be easy if someone could look underneath and see exactly what they need to get in there. If I was watching a Facebook channel of a guy doing this, and he was saying, shall I, shan't I, shall I, shan't I? I'm pretty sure that unless I was very, I mean, you don't know me from Adam, right? But unless I was very invested in that person, this isn't a slight on humanity, it's just observation. I'd be sitting there saying, go on, do it, you can do it. I want to see you do it. But I don't want to see him not do it, but I want him to try to see if he can do it, because I think he will, otherwise he wouldn't have posted it, or something along those lines. And in my imagination, I can feel YouTube world egging me on. And I can also, I've already seen the comments. So if I get any comments on this, I'll be happy. But in my imagination, I'm seeing like not so good comments, you know, of like, just get on with it, you know. And just for good measure, the neighbour walks past again and offers once again for me to use her late husband, God bless him, soul, use his tools. But, well, you never know. you never know. Tomorrow I might come out and try again. I might have a look at what else I've got kicking around in other little bits of tools that I've got. But realistically speaking, yeah, I was thinking to myself, it'd be handy if I had a cameraman. Well, the way things are going with me getting other people to do this work, I'm the cameraman. You know what I mean? Like the oil service. Wish I had a cameraman. You are the cameraman. Here's somebody doing it for you because you can't. So, oh well. In a way, I've cheered myself up. Probably. All we did was lose. All we had to do was win. Anyway, I'd like to imbue this car with a little bit more of its personality and say that it's where it's got its own. It doesn't alter the fact that on a different note, I've still popped out of my little. I'm gonna see. It was never. I'm gonna do the throttle body. It was a. I'm gonna see if I can, and I seen if I can, and I can't. Whereas if I decided to do it, maybe I would have done it. I don't know. Let's leave it at that. Let's put this back together. It's a job for Monday. It's going to lighten my pocket. Pause. I didn't do the throttle body. Now, who knows if the car's even going to start now, because I've unplugged it and I've done all kinds of silly things to it. Might leave the engine cover off. Starting is one thing, doesn't mean to say that it's going to drive with enough power. There's a little bit of tool that I was planning on dropping. I might as well just put it back. Put it back into place. Don't know if that's done. Don't know if that's everything or not. It's not funny, but I'll find out. So let's see. And get the thing started. There's some other. I've got to go around and check all the fuses and everything on this car to see what other errors I can get rid of. But I think there's a couple of drains on the battery because it's a new battery and it drops its power just too quickly. Right. That's the old problem. Ah, dear. Okay, let's adjust the throttle. I'll try it one more time. It's not really going to start, is it? No. Dear me. I hope there's a position that this will work, so I've got to take it on Monday. Yeah. So there we go. That's basically, I'll come out and show you. Basically, making some odd noises. I'm just going to go for it, I think, on Monday. Basically what I've done is I've moved this, it was a bit too far open. It's making a noise it wasn't making before, I don't think. Let's see if I can hear it when I put the cover on, because maybe it was making it before. No. Don't know what that's all about. It might be the actuator trying to work. Anyway. It's basically, try it up the hill to see what sort of power I've got, but really I should just leave it alone now, and take it on Monday. Yeah, let's see. Worst comes to the worst, I think if I absolutely had to do it, I would just have to do it. Who knows what it would all entail, whether I would have to go and get the right extension or what I would end up doing, but I think I'm probably just going to leave it and go take it Monday and see, because there's always a chance as well that it might not be that. There might be some other thing as well or whatever. Who knows? We'll see. I am going to take it up the road. I'm going to put my tools away and take it up the road. Alright, all the tools are away. My hands are still a little bit, obviously they're dirty, but like surface dirt as well, so I'll just get that off. I'm just taking it up the road to see what to expect. I don't need to do this, I don't even know why I'm doing it. But anyway, hopefully I'll get it back here. And certainly, most of all, I want to get it to the job on Monday. So there's a little hill here, so let's see. It seems to be alright actually. That was more power than I've had for a while, but yeah, it's not great, let's face it. But it's going to get me there if I take it. Saying 14.8 to the gallon right now as well. It needs that thing to be working. By modern standards, this is definitely not a quick car. By sports car standards, it's not a quick car. But just as a regular, I mean, it's getting on a bit now in terms of its age, but as a regular kind of car goes, the 0 to 60 on this is standard is 7 seconds. So, you know, it's alright. And for that little moment while it was accelerating quite nicely, it felt like the most I'd had for a while, so it felt quick to me then. But yeah, it's the thing is with that, that butterfly wants to be moving moment by moment, you know, electronically it's being told where to be so that there's the right amount of air and fuel mixture. And it's gone up to 14.9. So yeah, so it does give a performance problem. There's another. The only good thing is this is a private road. I can actually take my seatbelt off if I want to, but I don't want to. Yeah, it's going to improve the performance, improve the economy. And it's going to allow the regeneration of the DPF, which means that will improve the performance as well. To get, I mean, it's not as good as cleaning it properly, but it will certainly be better than what it is now. It's got figures of around about 70 something or others, and 6 grams of soot or something. Both of which are too high in like I said, it would normally be regenerated by now. And there's like a whole bunch of girls on bikes. They're gonna have to get out of my way. See, there's the particle filter warning coming on. I'm hanging well back from these. Quite a considerate driver, actually. Straight to the point. I do like to just get on with it. But I am considerate. Unlike this neighbour who's left his door open and there's a bunch of girls on bikes on the pavement, I ain't going past until he comes and closes his door. But once again, I'm not tooting or wait for him. Just, yeah. So he's looking at me, didn't realise the door was open. I mean, there it's better. If I had tooted a whole bunch of stuff, I mean, he looks like the kind of guy who wouldn't have got out of his pram about it. But anyway, I am quite considerate. So, in summary then, I have the Carly app, and it's already told me that, yeah, it needs regenerating. Basically, you'd get an error message anyway, but if you're, I mean, it's a classic thing because it's pretty much certain that it's the throttle body problem that's causing the DPF message to come up, particle filter, message to come up. So on the face of it, as far as the car is concerned, that's what it's telling you to do, is get that cleaned out. But it needs to be cleaned out because it hasn't been being regenerated when it normally would, because the throttle actuator has been not actuating enough or at all or whatever. That message hasn't come up. It comes up on Carly. The particle filter messages come up on the dash, whether you have a little app for it or not. This is the little Carly thing. It goes into the OBD2 port, onboard diagnostics version 2 port, which is that sort of shape. And then on your phone, you launch the app, and on your phone you then connect. It uses Bluetooth, and then you've got a bunch of options of what you can do and what you can check. You can do some things like you can have it so that when you lock the car, the door mirrors swing in, and you can do that sort of stuff. Call it coding or customization, but it's just options and accessories. It gives you more than you get from just the buttons that you have, and also some of the shortcuts of resetting the service lights, where you press a button on the dash and flick another thing on the wiper stalk or whatever. All those sort of hacks and tricks, you can do those without so much aggravation. You just do it by going through the menu. So it's a good thing to have. It's normally about, I think it's 70, 80, 90 quid to buy, and then you get a year's free subscription. I can't remember if you do or don't. But really the annoying thing is I'm not so sure you absolutely needed a subscription before, but mine lapsed, and it didn't seem to let me do anything. So basically, I thought, well, I want the extra things anyway, but it seems that these days it probably won't let you do very much at all if you don't do the subscription, which is about 90 odd quid a year as well, I think. Probably different levels of it. And that might even be per car, which is, you know, that's the way it is. I mean, I work in software development. I write business systems, or that's what I've been doing for years. Unfortunately for me, mine was always like, just you buy it outright, it's yours, get on with it, call me if you need me, which was nice, and it worked for my clients. Obviously they wouldn't have been my clients, but I liked operating that way. The days when you could buy software and it was yours, and all right, you might have to upgrade 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, but then you'd get the new version for half price or something like that. Now everything's about rental, isn't it? I had somebody tell me recently that you subscribe to features now on some of the Volkswagens, in other words on every car, because if they're doing it, everyone else will do it. No one's patented the idea of making money. So it's like, yeah, you want the aircon to work in the summer, that's $6.99 per month, and your aircon will work. I mean, it's you know, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Yeah, anybody know what I mean by that? So basically, that's just the way we're going now. And if I was going like that, you know, I could be in a situation where I'm taking calls from clients who've got to renew their subscription to my product. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? You know, take a call right now and it's like, yeah, that's going to cost you X amount of money, and if it was a subscription to a product of mine, of course that's all profit, because I haven't got to lay out anything. And yeah, you can see the appeal, handle, it helps your cash flow and all the rest of it. But you know, there are people who lease cars, just say, right, it costs me X hundred or whatever a month for a car I don't need to worry about. You know, get something nice and new and safe and comfortable, reliable, probably quite efficient in terms of fuel economy. Even if it's a juicy petrol, it won't be as juicy as the same car was 20 years before, you know, etc., etc. So I can understand the appeal if you've got if that's it, you're on a month, you know, you're on a full-time job, and you feel your job is secure and that's just what you do. Fair enough. And there's all sorts of tax incentives. Government always gives you incentives for you to go down the path they want you to go down, and then they put up the drawbridge. We've seen that, but anyway, long digression. But Carly are in the same business model as subscription now, but it's a decent tool. It's told me that I have this problem, for instance, and it might be caused by a wiring fault. Well, we could have known if I'd been brave enough or stupid enough or whatever, fortunate enough or whatever. But who knows what my fault's going to be. Hopefully it's just going to be swap out a throttle body, engine power will come back, DPF will regen. I can actually, that's another good thing on Carly app, you can force a regen of the DPF, but of course it's not really doing it, because I'm pretty sure there are people that say if you don't, what it needs is, this is what I've heard, like the most extreme cases of putting everything together, this is what I've heard. You need all 6 glow plugs and the control module to be working. You need your thermostat not to be stuck open, so that the car does get up to a decent temperature, somewhere over 90, I think it is. And it would seem as well you also need throttle body actuator to be working fine. There might be some other things that need to be working as well, but those are what I've cleaned so far. That's the worst case scenario. That's what, putting together what different people have said. However, I haven't had more than, well, I've had, and this is the beauty of Carly. Carly's given me this information. I think I've only got 1 glow plug now. It got me through last winter. I think I might have had 2, I'm not sure, but it also said the controller wasn't working. So if the controller's not working, really none of the glow plugs are working, is what I think. You know, 4 or 5 of them will never work. 1 or 2 of them potentially work, but the controller isn't working. That's what I'm picking up from what I've got from the Carly app, right? But you know, the glow plugs, they just warm up the diesel so that cold starts are a bit smoother. Now in the winter that does matter. This has been a bit clattery the first 5-10 seconds or so. Starting on one glow plug was not ideal. It'd probably start on none, but it might take a few seconds. First few seconds of running was a bit lumpy, then it would clear out, it'd be fine. And that was at sort of -4. So it's not ideal. It was in a queue of things to get done, hasn't been done so far, and then we got into the spring and it was like, okay, whatever. But I do remember I've had that problem ever since I had this car. And I do remember once sitting like I'm sitting now, talking on the phone to someone, I think, outside my mum's, and I was thinking, it was summer, I was thinking the car's getting a bit hot, I should probably just drive to give it a chance to cool itself down. And I can't remember if it was while I was still sitting there or as I went to drive off, but all of a sudden it was smoking big time. And I was a bit worried that it might not clear out. I was thinking, it was my first time, you know, with a DPF on a car, so I was thinking, is that what it is? Is that what it's doing? It's one of the last jobs done before the guy sold the car, was having it, literally, according to the invoice, had it taken out, cleaned and put back in, and it had a 1-year warranty or something. So after I got a few more miles up the road, all that smoking and everything disappeared, and I just hoped it wasn't because it was overheating, and then realised, yeah, it was a regen. Maybe it hadn't done one for a while, because maybe it didn't get hot enough. It's not getting hot enough when I'm driving it, but if I just leave it sitting, it will do it. According to many sources, but not all sources, they won't regenerate just by sitting still, but I've heard other people say that's not true. If they get hot enough when they're sitting still, they will regenerate, or they can if you force a regen or something like that. But normally it says, you know, get above 3,500, which is quite high on a diesel that only revs to 5, but anyway, and above 70 mile an hour, or above 50 or 60 mile an hour, something like that. But I couldn't really get it to force the regen, and like from what I'm gleaned, the things to check in that case would be, first thing, the easiest thing, again, you can do it on the Carly app, you can go and have a look and monitor the temperature of the car, see if it's getting high enough. You can also, I don't think it does need all the glow plugs, because like I say, in my experience, I've had a regen when I haven't had all glow plugs working, and I've heard other people say the same as well, and people get quite argumentative about it actually, so it's quite funny. See the state people get in over it on forums and stuff. But at the end of the day, if it's happened for someone without all the glow plugs, then it's obviously a possibility, if not a probability. So anyway, that would be the thing. I'm hoping I might have to get it hot if I do have a situation where the luckily, apparently for most people, when the thermostats on these lock, they lock open, not closed, so it won't overheat, it just won't be warm enough, which means, yeah, you'll have DPF issues probably, but also you won't have good fuel consumption, because the car's never really getting warm enough to run at its maximum sort of efficiency. So, long story short, Carly's a good app to look at things, diagnose things, reset things, service lights, reset coding. There's some things it won't do. I tried resetting the center transmission, I've forgotten what it's called, transfer box, transfer case or whatever. After that had been serviced, I even had the guy that serviced it reset it, and the error kept coming back. But I took it for a gearbox service. The guy said to me it doesn't need a service, it needed topping up with oil. That did improve things a little bit actually. So he didn't take my money for the service. I would have paid him, but he was like, you don't need to. So I'm like, all right, I'll go with the flow for now. But I said to him, can you reset that transfer case? It was like oil low was the message. And so he did, and it hasn't come back since. So what I think, there we go. What I think is that the problem is with Carly is it won't always diagnose everything, and its resets don't always hold, but some of them do. I've reset the service light on this, or the service interval on this, after getting the oil service the other week, and that's held. and it's enabled me to flip open mirrors and stuff on unlocking the car and close them on unlocking the car, which is a pretty handy thing to do actually. Used to be able to do it by holding the lock button down for a while, but that would also close the sun blind as well, which I didn't want. So Carly's quite good for odds and sods like that, and for seeing what's up. It might help you, like for me here, rather than take it to a garage and say it's not running, to take it to a garage with a part that I've sourced myself, saying there you go, there's the throttle body, can you fit it for me? It's a bit better. So there's that. But it's not a full-on pro diagnostics tool, and I've got a front right communication area with front right satellite. That's my dynamic suspension message. The annoying thing about that is every time I come close to getting that looked into, something else jumps the queue. So the whole time I've had this car, which is almost like 2 weeks away from 2 years, I still haven't had it done. One time I had it booked in to do it, and I had somebody get ill and taken ill and wasn't able to look after her kids, so I jumped in and went to the rescue, and then ended up getting ill myself, and that was a whole other story. By the time I got out of that situation, I was not in the position I'd been in before to go and get this thing diagnosed. And then, like I say, from then failed an MOT on a spring, oddly enough, on that side, and then that turned into a much bigger job thanks to National Tyres ambitions. But so that was that, and there's just always been one thing after another, and even like with the oil service the other week, the sump plug was already stripped and sealed over, so I wasn't in a position to sort that out. So that's been, at least the oil's been changed, the filter's been changed, the sump plug has been sort of sealed, but really it needs a sump, or it needs re-tapping or welding or whatever. So it's just annoying. I still don't know what it's like with the dynamic suspension working on this. Probably very nice. Anyway, long story short, there's how to diagnose if you've got a throttle body actuator problem. There might be other reasons, but you can suspect it if the car's down on power, trouble starting, trouble stopping. I haven't had that. Touch, well, there ain't no wood in here. Well, there is a little bit under there, touch wood. Yeah. But to put that through a diagnostics tool as well and comes up with that error, fine, great, that's what it is. DPF will clear out. Then I'm in a situation where I still have a DPF. I would love to gut that thing, but who knows. And got to check the temperature of the car. Might even check it now, see what it is. I've been sitting here for a while. And also the glow plugs would be nice to get done, especially as we're coming up to winter. But then I was also thinking the blanked. This is what happens when you're on video. But in the inlet manifold, the swirl flaps. Don't know who told me that, but it came into my head. Swirl flaps, as you've got you have to at least loosen the inlet manifold to get the glow plugs out, apparently. May as well take it off, get the swirl flaps done if they haven't been done already. They don't need to be coded when they're blanked, apparently. So that looked like possible DIY job, but no. Timing chain on a car with this heavy miles, 185, that's a lot. Again, I've had people say they don't just go. If they make noise, then you got to worry. Keep the oil. This is why I did the oil service as well, even though I need to do it again when I do the sump. I've had people say that the tensioners are adjusted through oil pressure that goes through the adjusters or something, and if that gets clogged, they don't adjust, and that's where you get problems. I'm not going to be blasé about it, because obviously it's a game changer if the timing chain goes, but you know, I'm probably thinking that's the time when you do the timing chain to do the pump, not the water pump, but well, who knows, maybe, but the thermostat. It's the glow plugs and control module and the swirl flaps probably. It probably doesn't save that much money to do them at the same time as the timing chain. Yes, you got to get those off. I don't think you've got to get the inlet manifold off for the timing chain. It makes sense to me if you did, just because of the way things are connected or whatever. But anyway, whatever. It's the same old story. Anyone who's into their E70s has got that list of swirl flaps blanked, EGR delete, DPF delete, in other words remove, remap. Car like this, apparently people say about 350 to 370 horsepower, which isn't that far off the M50D of this shape, which was close on 400, depending on whether it's PS or BHP or whatever. The good thing about the M50, of course, is it's got a third turbo, so I'm assuming better throttle response, less lag. This has always had lag, but I think that's all the environmental crap that's in there, because this is a twin turbo putting out 286 horses, BHP or PS or whatever, HP, with a twin turbo, so a slightly smaller one and a slightly bigger one. So people always go for those. That's the same old thing that everyone goes for. That's the sort of typical stage 1 stuff. And if you want to go beyond there, some mechanical parts involved. But anyway, I wouldn't mind getting it remapped. The DPF is a bit of a commitment to remove that. You're not supposed to, etc. So we'll see. Probably I won't, but it's still got some things that need to be done. Glow plugs, control module, throttle body, swirl flap, blanking, front right satellite, communication error needs to be sorted, whatever that is, for the dynamic suspension. And then I've got choices which aren't really best thought of as choices. That's like timing chain. Still might get the gearbox serviced. It's had all the other oils done, and like I say, I had a top up. But you know, lumpy or inconsistent gear changes is the most common characteristic, and it's smoother now that the oil was topped up, but I think new oil and filter would probably take that away completely. So anyway, a whole bunch of stuff's got to be done. I'm gonna get don't know what make yet. I had an Ericsson one before, but a Android head unit for an ear. SMD Automotive do a nice wireless charger to go down by where the ashtray is. I don't need that right now, but certainly once I have the Apple AirPlay in here, I will do, because you know, and then you can just throw the phone down. I don't want to put it in the glove compartment because I forget it. But you throw the phone down and it's charging, and it just wirelessly comes up on the screen. Like I said, I had it in an E39. It was a game changer on that car. So I'm going to do something like that probably, but right now I need to tackle. I'm going to get some black gloss badges as well for the side, the 35D X-Drive on the side and the X5 on the back. Probably do that. Not sure what to do with the front grille at the moment. I would like carbon effect, but not really sure. I do want to do something with the grille. Of all the standard BM ones for this era, I like what it is. It's the chrome with the grey slats, but I don't want to make this look like Michael Knight's car, you know what I mean? But I do want it to just subtly just freshen it up a little bit. And I suppose at the end of the day, if we don't sort out this ULIS thing, I'm going to have to figure out what am I going to get that is compliant. You think, well, just get a petrol one of these. But they clobber you heavily for tax on that, and also obviously the fuel economy is atrocious. This is bad at the moment, but it should improve once I get it sorted. So there it is. It's kind of a fail, but it was an interesting fail. I kind of feel quite good about it in a way. I feel like I've had a go. I'm just plugging in the Carly thing. I'll take a screen video of what Carly has to say right now, and yeah, that will be about that. Don't know what to do with the rest of my day. Shouldn't really drive this anywhere because it's getting slower and slower, and I might be able to move the throttle body valve to a more favourable position, but I think it's better to just leave it. I don't have to move the car now until Monday afternoon. Monday morning I'll go take it to these guys with the part and just say I got halfway through it and I couldn't get to the bolts underneath because I didn't have the tools, which is pretty much the truth. I didn't think I had the tools, and I might be right about that. It's probably the accurate truth, but no one's going to sit there and wait for me to spit all that lot out, except maybe on YouTube, but probably not. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to connect up Carly now and see what it thinks. It's going to think the same as what it thought before, because it's mechanical. It's got no duty of care to my emotions. Cheers, guys. Right, so there you have it. That's Carly. One thing that is quite good, I suppose, is that the engine temperature was like 91 or 92 degrees sitting here. So that's the sort of temperature it needs to be at in order to do a regen. It's not going to do it right now, hopefully, just because of the throttle body, because it does need to do a regen. But I've shown you how you can force a regen. People said you can sit still and do it. If I can maintain 90 odd degrees whilst driving on the motorway or something, then I could do that, see if that clears it out. But I have had it happen just from sitting still before now myself, even with just one or two glow plugs and no control module. So yeah, I think it's the throttle body that's stopping it from regenerating, and it might even be that the loss of performance, because it wasn't so much, it could be, you know, the loss of performance may be heavily caused by the DPF blockage. It was 60 odd grams of soot, 6.5 grams of ash or something, so it's, yes, it needs regenerating. But I remember when it was driving fine, before I knew about the throttle body problem, I remember it was inconsistent. It wasn't always quick. Cause some days you drive it, you think, and I thought that, I put that down to, it's probably, you know, the EGR decides when it wants to recirculate, and that's not going to improve performance. So probably all the emissions stuff doing, you know, just saying, okay, now's the time to do whatever we've got to do. So that's probably why it was inconsistent. That's what I was thinking at the time. It wasn't massive, but you could definitely tell. Sometimes I drive it would be like, it would fly. Other times it was like, you know, it got a move on, but you sort of felt that it was like not getting what it wanted. That also sounds to me like it could be the beginnings of a throttle body actuator problem, where it's just not quite putting that butterfly valve in the exact location that the engine wants it at, second by second or whatever. Could be. Anyway, we'll see, but one thing at a time. Get this throttle body done, and then try and see if it will do a regen, and hopefully, you know, nothing else will need to be done for the time being, and it can just settle back in again, and then I can get the other stuff that's in the queue sorted out. Unfortunately, there's always something you didn't expect, especially with a car like this. So you try and sort of get your wish list stuff done as soon as you can. What happened the other day? Oh yeah, everybody's insurance seems to be doubling and trebling, and mine went up by a fair amount, and that sort of took the money for the head unit away. So that's gone down the list, but we'll see. We'll get there hopefully. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe if you if you want to. It would be nice. Well, here I am then, and it's Monday morning, and I'm going to see if I can get is that the lens? Yeah. Going to see if I can get the throttle body sorted out. Hopefully I can, and get nice DPF regeneration, and the car will be back up to where it was, and I can take it from there, hopefully. Cheers. I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to film any of this where I'm going. If I can, I will. Okay. So, crash bar out, cable disconnected, pipes out the way, engine cover out the way. Here is the little critter, looking rather dirty as well, by the way. So now it's one on the top, one in the middle of the picture there, and one underneath. If you look, these are the two underneath ones. So there's the one on the top, there's the underneath, there's the underneath. Got a little bit of dirt on them, but then hopefully that pipe, this pipe here, will need to come out of the way, but it looks like it probably does. There you go, I think. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Can't really. But anyway, well, I hope everything goes fine, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better about not doing it myself. It's doable, but it can ruin your day too.
Apa sih patah? Come on, come on.
Yes, superstar. Press mobile home. We're in.
Okay, now you start the car.
So far so good. I'm really glad I didn't do it. Look at me, I'm smiling. I'm so happy. It seemed like it revved easier. I suppose it would. But I haven't taken it out on the road yet. I'm just going to get the card machines down, so I'm just going to grab some cash for them. So I'm going to the petrol station, but sounded okay. There was a bit of a strange sound at first, but of course he cleaned it with brake cleaner, and so it fired all that out, so it had a little clatter. But yeah, it seems okay. I have a feeling that it's going to be alright. And even if it doesn't regenerate the DPF, I just have a feeling that the power is going to be back. So we get across this road. So we'll see. We'll see. Time for the cash machine. We're walking back, time to set it up. All right. I already know that this is feeling better right now, and the way the camera is, I didn't bring my holder. This is just going to fall as soon as I want to explore just how. As soon as I want to explore just how well this thing's driving. Just trying to think the best way to get where I want to go. I'm going to go this way. That was lucky. Basically, the camera's going to end up in my lap. That's what I'm trying to say. But I'm not even sure if I need to force a regen on this. I have a feeling it's going to do it, but the lack of power was purely down to that throttle body actuator. Throttle body. Basically, I remember this. For all you hardcore petrol heads out there, right, 7 seconds to 60 ain't fast, but it's a lot faster than about 15 seconds to 20, which I was probably getting. Yeah, it's good to be back. And I think, was it about May when I broke down? That's when it was first, protested, and it was only by open, because the throttle wouldn't spring back. I could open it a little bit in order to get the car to run, and I'm ashamed to say that I've continued to run it since. it's almost as if I get my fuel for nothing, but I certainly don't. But I don't do a lot of miles at the moment, so anyway, but yeah, progressively it got worse. The DPF does need to do a regen, but I don't know why I've changed my mind. I was going to go and give it a wash. But I want to drive it first and see what it's doing. So I could have gone a different way. Anyway, it does definitely seem to be better. Whether it's completely handled or not, I won't know until I sort of really, put it through its paces a little bit. But there you go. I asked him if it was okay if I filmed it. He said he would charge me more. So because I'll stop and explain, and to be fair to it, he did it. He showed me a clip that I needed to get at some point for the air intake that goes onto the throttle body. That's that big silver circlip. It was looking like it was a bit weak, and in place of like a groove out of it or something. So it looked like that might snap at some point, and then of course it might let a little bit of air in. But yeah, I mean, everything else was straightforward. He was straight on it. He knew. He took a look. Straight away called what he had to do. He showed me and he was right. You lost a tiny little bit of water. I need to probably check that. But I've had nothing come up on the dash, so I'm sure it's fine. Because of the EGR cooler. And of course you could say, well, the EGR and its cooler shouldn't be there, but you don't necessarily have to remove them if you blank them. Judging by the rubbish in that throttle body, looking down into it when I took the actuator sort of part of it off, I think the EGR is, well, I say working, I mean it's the EGR is polluting the inside of the engine just like it's supposed to. And all I can say to that is, who wants the inside of their engine polluted? But anyway, a little thing that I have noticed, I can still hear a little bit of kind of turbo whistle, which I don't remember ever hearing before the problem with the actuator. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I've got the throttle body open too much and you can hear everything. Because there's always a chance when you hear that that there's an air leak somewhere. So maybe there is. I don't know. The other thing I wanted to say is that you've really, obviously, you can't just go throwing yourself into something blindly, but I've said this before on doing all kinds of things. If you're backed off, if you can do it and if you should do it, if you sort of try not to touch it whilst you're touching it, the job's going to do you, and just, I was standing there when he pulled the pipe off of the throttle body and moved it out of the way, and I was just like, it was just like ping off turn, and I would have been like, oh, I don't want it to crack, and I was just so backed off. Even when he put it back on, it clipped straight back on, obviously. But I think you get out of practice when you're not doing it. You've got to get the decision right whether or not you should be tackling the job, if you feel up to it or whatever, if you've got the tools. Get an eye on the job, see what it's going to take, and then just get stuck in. Not sort of blindly sort of thing, but yeah, just don't be too backed off on the job itself, because it'll push you around basically. And yeah, but I suppose it's also like a confidence thing as well. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it, all right, the engine weren't running, but this guy's working on a live system. It's it's not like, he's took it home with him to sort of do in his spare time, and if he couldn't do it, he couldn't do it. Once you're in practice, you know what you're doing, and you've experienced at doing it. You do tend to just, get a look at the job, see what it's going to take, make a little plan mentally, and then think, yeah, fine, let's just crack on. And of course, if you've done it a million times, that flashes through your mind. This is the same one as I always do. There's nothing different. It takes a millisecond of thought, and then you're into the job. Even the little the torque screws that have got to come out, because the reason why he took the EGR cooler pipe off is because he couldn't guarantee that you could get a directly straight angle on the head of the bolt. So, and if you don't, you don't want to strip one of those. I mean, trying to get that out once it's been stripped. I mean, imagine me by the side of the road. And I thought as well, okay, I could have Googled it and stuff, but I thought that cooler pipe, I didn't realise that I thought it was all going to come gushing out, and it wasn't. It didn't. It just, about an egg cupful or two came out. What was residual in there, perhaps because the thermostat was shut, I don't really know, or because the cooler, the EGR valve was shut, I don't know. Maybe that's got a little valve on it as well. And the other thing as well is before he even did that, he just popped open the radiator cap and took a look, and he said, is it red or is it clean, like clear? So if it was red, I don't know, maybe that's like a sealed, I don't know, a different kind of antifreeze anyway. I don't think he topped it up. I haven't had a message saying that it's low. I could check, but for the time being at least anyway, everything's okay. And I'm going to nip up the road actually. Am I on? I don't know. Yeah, I am. And just give this a little bit of a blast and see. Actually, I know a hill that I could get it up and see what happens. So I could leave this running, but I'm just making the video long now, or giving myself an editing job to do. But basically, it's back. That there just then felt a little bit. Let's see if I ever get this on a rolling road. Let's see, maybe it's putting out a little bit more than it should. I don't know how. I can tell you, and I'm not even speaking in code, that DPF is still there. Don't know if the EGR, well, I don't think the EGR is blank because it was pretty dirty. Swirl flaps, don't know, but they don't make a massive amount of difference. It's just more a point of consistency in terms of how the car runs, and also obviously the big one, not dropping its bits into the intake manifold, and therefore, dare I say it, the engine. But yeah, it does. Maybe it's just because I'm not used to it again, but yeah, I think I've got the power back. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go up this hill just to try it out. There's a lot of turbo whistle. Oh, as luck would have it, there's a truck, and no one can get past. It sounds very breathy. Maybe it was always a problem. Don't know. Just trying to think whether to do a little Carly check and reset. Better do that at home, really. I was going to nip out and do something. I'm still going to nip out and do something. There you go, talking to myself. I think I'm going to just leave this for now, and because I'm not really. I'm not really doing a proper job of whatever it is I need to do next. So if anything significant happens, I'll bring you along. Can't really see too much behind me because my phone is where the reversing camera is. I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll summarise. Right then, seems to have cleared out the throttle body, or there was 3 actuation type sort of problems. Those are all cleared out. I had something about charge pressure sensor or something. Air charge pressure sensor. Anyway, I've cleared that out. Weirdly enough, the glow plugs problems haven't come back since I've cleared, but once I get driving, perhaps it will, or once I restart the car, that's obviously when they'll be checked. So anyway, we'll see. So I've cleared the faults out, and I'm gonna nip out shortly for a little run, see how it gets on. But in the meantime, I checked the DPF live monitoring, if you like, and I get it wrong, it's the soot and the ash, or the ash and the soot, whichever was the lower one. There was one, I think it was the ash, was about 6. That's what it can't get rid of. I think the soot is what the DPF clears out and turns into ash, and eventually the ash is so much it doesn't do it with a regen, you have to clean the DPF. That's what the way around I think it is. Strange glitch on the phone there. Anyway, so basically what I'm trying to say is the soot, which was at about 60 or 70, is down to 9 now. That's at the moment, that's since I've reset, but before it would, as soon as you monitored after resetting, it would show that it was high. I haven't had the warning come on. I think it's fine. I think it's done it. I didn't see any rubbish coming out the back or anything like that. So it's done it gracefully, however it's done it, if it has done it. It must have done it because, like I say, unless I'll monitor it when I go on a run, and unless it sort of kicks in and says, oh, there's a problem here, it seems that it's done it. So quite important to do that throttle body. So far so good. I'm just going to sort a couple of bits out at home, then I'm going to nip out. Quick little update on taking it up the road. Yeah, nice and quick. 2 things which I suppose are pretty obvious, but I didn't really sort of think about them, is that the gear changes are smoother, and obviously because I suppose it's, it's sending a message in between gear changes to sort of do something smooth with the throttle, and now that the thing's working properly, it can do that. So I think that's probably why. And also switching it off, you get that little diesel shake, for, as the last bit of fuel rattles down its leg. Well, it's not doing that now, and it's not doing that, certainly not like it was before. So before, when you switch it off, it would go off, but it would vibrate. It's switching off just as quickly now, but it's so smooth, it just sort of softens off, if you like. And then I realized I'm pretty sure that the gearbox, well, first of all, I think this actuator has been a problem for longer than I really realize. Perhaps even, I'm thinking now, actually, perhaps pretty much the whole time I've had the car. The other thing is that, for sure, I've had the gearbox. I went to get the gearbox serviced, and the guy said doesn't need it, the oil's fine. He's tested the oil, was a little bit low. So maybe that was the amount he tested, I don't know, but I'll give him I was very happy, and I still am actually happy with him. So he topped it up, and I noticed that it was smoother, but it would still sometimes get caught in like 2 minds about, it's like, and it's going to change, bang, it changes, that sort of thing. I know that's a sign of needing a gearbox service, but it was certainly better after having the fluid topped up. That may be just because it had some you know, on average now the quality in there was better. You know, but in my own head, I mean, I'm sure he knows how much came out with him testing and how much he put back in. So if he said it was low, I'm sure it was. In fact, I know it was, because the guy wouldn't take my money for a full service on one. You know, I booked it in for it. He said, well, if it doesn't need it, I won't do it. And I was like, I want you to do it because I'm a bit nervous. But anyway, he was like, it's fine. The oil's good in there. So there's no guarantee that it hasn't been done since new anyway. But what I think is that although that did improve things, there was still a bit of an issue there, and that made me wonder whether or not, you know, one of these days I should just get it serviced anyway and just be done with it, because I had that with my previous car. It definitely made a difference. In fact, with my previous car, I had an E39 528 like Steptronic, and the gearbox company were like pretty much condemning the gearbox because it was like, I think it wasn't always going in reverse and it wasn't changing smoothly or whatever, after it had been sitting for quite a long time. And I said, well, can you just service it? He said, well, there's no point, it needs a gearbox really. I said, well, you know, I'm sure it'll be slightly better, if not completely better, if you just service it. So he said, all right, fine. So he said, but no guarantees. I said, no, that's fine. So they serviced it, you know, new filter and new oil. I never had a problem with it again. It was absolutely fine. That gearbox had been rebuilt during my ownership because it was misdiagnosed at a BMW dealer. It was a wheel speed sensor, £65, but they reckon it was a £4,500 gearbox. And my warranty company said, well, we'll get our guys to rebuild it. Their guys rebuilt it. It was no better. So we went back to further diagnostics. Oh, yeah, wheel speed sensor cost 65 quid for the part, probably minutes to fit it. So it had been rebuilt unnecessarily before. So when I had it serviced, it got rebuilt at about 70,000 miles, I would say, 60 or 70,000 miles, and it got serviced again after sitting for the best part of a year, I think, at about, I would say must be around about the 200,000 mark. So after about 140, somewhere between 120 and 140,000, let's say, miles, it needed servicing again after it had been sitting for a year in a field, waiting for the guy to do the work on it. It actually had strawberry bush growing out on the side in between the wing and the bonnet. Anyway, whatever. So that was that, but that was on that cost. So, you know, the stories of sort of 140, 150,000 miles is a good time to get them reserviced, even though they're supposed to be sealed for life and blah, blah, blah. According to the manufacturers, you know, you're supposed to throw these things in the bin after 100,000, aren't you? Anyway, so, yeah, I wanted to get that done. But anyway, my long babble is to basically say that I mean, this is the first time, I reckon it's the first time I've driven this car since, with a decent throttle body, since the gearbox was topped up, let's say. And the gear changes now are really smooth, and it doesn't tend to hang around. You know, normally with the accelerator, you come off the accelerator, it would change gear, you know. This wasn't always doing that, particularly if you went, I know with sport it holds the gears longer, but anyway, it seems to be behaving more realistically now. You know, there are times with the gearbox where I'd be like, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? What are you seeing that I'm not? You know, like you see those dogs sometimes walk down the street and all of a sudden they're like, do you hear that? And it's like the gearbox was kind of doing that, you know. Anyway, I'm just really happy about it. If it carries on behaving itself and settling in, it seems to have handled the DPF thing. I've had no message come up. The level's down to a reasonable level now. I never checked the DPF before I was getting the warnings, so I don't or maybe I did a long time ago, so I don't really remember what the figures would be when it was sort of typical real world use sort of thing, but it's a lot lower than when the message was coming up anyway, and the message hasn't come up. So all in all, so far I think I've got performance back, DPF issues solved with no apparent drama, as in no big smoke or anything like that. Nice smooth gear changes, and I'll say it again because I like this bit about the performance. It's all right. I mean, as a lad, I used to think when I was a kid, anything under sort of 11 seconds, you depending on the engine, you'd have to 60, you'd have a moment where you felt some sort of pull, some bit of torque or something. I always remember like the 2 litre Capris. Everyone wanted a 3 litre Capri, but the 2 litre Capris, they were okay. They were okay. Anything quicker than that, like 9 seconds, that was like, okay, that's a sports car. That's quite quick. These days, just about everything's 7. I mean, if you forget about electric, but I still think the factory figures for this was 146, I think it is, miles an hour, and 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. I remember Cosworth Sierra, Ford saying, when I first read about the release of them, they seemed to change the figures later, but they were saying 150 mile an hour and 6.7 seconds to 60. So later on, people sort of said, well, more like 145 mile an hour and 6.2 or something to 60. But my point is that I remember when the Cosworth Sierra came out, it was like, how can you even have a car that quick? How's it going to stay on the road? It's like, we were used to sort of 9-8 seconds or something. But that thing, 200 brake out of the 2 litre, it was a big difference in the engine. But I just remember that being a really quick car, and obviously people made them a lot quicker than that. But for me to be thinking that here I am in a 7-seater, 2.5 ton bus, basically, that's a diesel as well, and it's pretty much got the performance figures of a Sierra Cosworth or Cosworth Sierra. So anyway, this does have that mid-range torque again, which is so lovely to have back. And I've noticed that the fuel economy is starting to improve slightly as well, even though I haven't been ragging it. You can't these days, can you? Not in suburbia anyway. But I have, given it some, I've got straight to the point wherever I can, let me put it that way. And it still ended up, by the time I got it, it was sort of saying 15 to the gallon, which means it must have been doing about 18, because it's given me an average overall since it started recording. So anyway, it's going to be better, the fuel economy. I'm glad to have my car back. I'm really grateful for that guy. I had some really nice moments where, sort of high five moments when the thing started, and just as I understood, he gave me a prognosis of the job, if you like, and it was like, yeah, I think he's right. But then seeing it go down exactly like that, and he showed me, this is why I had to take the EGR cooler pipe off, so I can get straight on. And I said to him, do you want me to give you a shout out? And he said, no. But it's like, what? No, don't, or no, you don't have to. I don't know the answer to that, but so I ain't gonna say who they were then, just if that's how he wants it. But I'm really happy. That's, the guy's done my mum's clutch, he's done tyres for her, he's done, what did he do for me when I can't even remember what he did for me now. Would you believe? I can't even remember what it was he did for me, but he did it, whatever it was. And I was happy with that. I know what it was. I had a brake caliper binding. He did that while I waited. There's a cafe in a little park sort of across the road. I went in there and had a sandwich and a coffee or something, and came back and it was done. It's a reasonable price. I ain't going to say what it was. I could have got it done slightly cheaper if I'd waited a week, but I didn't want to do that. But he still is still a good price. So I'm happy. Oh, final thing, I really must wrap up for your sake, as much as mine, maybe more for yours, but throttle bodies. There was a Pierberg one on there. That seemed to be the standard thing to have. I put a Pierberg on there. Most people I spoke to on forums said, yeah, Pierberg, that's the one. I did see some others. I could have saved about £90. In fact, I could have saved more than £90. Like, let me put it this way. Looking at about £260 for a Pierberg throttle body, even though, you know, I was looking around, that's what it looked like. I managed to get it for something like £160 from Autodoc. I think it was £160 or £170, something like that. And it arrived pretty quick. It said it could take up to 2 weeks. Must have arrived 4 days, 5 days, something like that. It might have even included, I'd say, let's say 4 working days, something along those lines. And I think that was including the postage. Now, so I got it for quite a bit cheaper. Now, I could have got a sort of unbranded one for even as low, I think, as 70, but about 90. Second-hand Pierbergs were going for, like, I think over 100, like 140 or something like that. So I could have got an unbranded one. The main reason why I wasn't is because I didn't trust the fact that where the spring is on the outside, where mine wasn't springing back, it didn't have a spring. It didn't actually have a spring. It had the lug, and I'm just assuming that's fine. It's the mechanism's inside or something, and if you do need to change it, there's probably a lug on the side of it where you can do it with a flathead screwdriver or something. And touch lack of wood in this car now. You know, I don't want to have to do that because that would indicate a problem again. But it got me out of jail. If there was something else wrong on my old throttle body, other than the fact it wasn't springing back, which I think the mechanism or the electronics for the mechanism, whatever inside, I think had gone as well. The fact that that spring wasn't springing back meant that I could set it myself, which got me out of jail. I broke down, actually just around the corner from where I am now. I broke down on a Saturday night, and I didn't know. It took me a few days to figure out, or just to try to move the throttle body open, and it started straight away on that. So I think what happened is that the actuator started playing up. It put the throttle body in the wrong position, and it wouldn't. And what I thought actually is it sprung shut. It doesn't. It springs wide open. So I guess that was too much air coming in or something. Or maybe there's a sensor for the butterfly or something that feeds back to the ECU or something, where there would be, wouldn't there? Let's face it. Where is the butterfly right now, says the ECU, because I want to know how much fuel to give you and how much air, and if I need to send a message to adjust it. So that's what it's doing, isn't it? So anyway, whether the spring was just a coincidence or whether it was part of the problem, I don't know. But being able to adjust it manually, I've put up with that for a while. It's caused quite a lot of fuel use, but it got me to the point where I could get it done. So I've heard of people who have been fitting these non-Pierberg ones and have had trouble. One guy had a problem with a Pierberg one. It doesn't seem that you need to code them out or code them in or whatever. Seems like just straight swap. Maybe I could have got a non-Pierberg one and saved a bunch of money. But you know when you fit a part and it doesn't work, and you think, is it because that's not what the problem is, or that's not the only problem, or is it because there's a fault with the thing? I just didn't want that. I've got it, and the whole time now, I used to say this to people, after a while you'd forgotten about the money, but you still have the product in terms of getting something you want or whatever. And I was hoping that this guy might come in at less than I'd been quoted to have this job done, just for my sake, really. But he came in at more, and I just thought, just get it done. Just get it done. And look at me now, I'm sitting here and it's working and I'm happy. So my advice would be probably to stick with a Pierberg one and perhaps go somewhere like Autodoc to buy it, and don't forget the little rubber sort of gasket which pushes in. That would be my advice, to do pretty much what I've done. You've seen from this video now what needs to be done in order to do the job. It's up to you. If you fancy it, if you think you're up to it, if you've got the the right tools, including just the right length extensions and stuff like that, give it a go. It is just bolting and unbolting. It's not like complicated really, but you got to have a little nous. You got to approach the job properly. You got to be confident about it, and trying to cut a corner, trying not to have to remove something or whatever, give the opportunity for it going wrong. Even silly little things like, you know, we've all done it. We all drop a screw down a hole or whatever. So I'm glad I got that guy the other week to do the oil service for me, which I should have done myself or could have done myself, and I was sort of giving myself a bit of a hard time about it. Turned out to be a great idea. I'm not gonna tempt fate really by saying too much, but sometimes you just have to sniff out the right thing to do and remove all your prejudices, and that works both ways. Sometimes I think, I don't want to do it, I want to get someone else to do it, and I think, yeah, but I should do it and I can do it, and just do it. You know, other times it's the other way around, where I think, oh, it's there, it's on the tip of my tongue, let me just undo those 3 bolts. And I'm really glad I didn't do it. I'm glad about the whole thing. I'm glad I got as close as I did. I'm glad I put this video together. It's not perhaps so much a direct video about replacing the throttle body. It's more of a overall picture of what it is, what the symptoms are, what you're gonna have to pay for it, how to do it if you do want to try it yourself, decide for yourself whether or not you should. Also that it is possible to have somebody do it for you without charging an arm and a leg. You know, mechanics, they're like plumbers and electricians, and when you find a good one that works for you, that's where you go, particularly when your car's out of main dealer territory. And it's out of main dealer territory really when the warranty will let you go elsewhere, and you feel that it's not going to knock the value of the car too much to have non-main dealer service history. Most people expect 8-9-year-old car to start to now have a specialist but not a main dealer, you know. But more than anything, obviously, just keep them looked after, keep them serviced. So there it is. There's my throttle body. Not trying to, it always turns into a vlog. I'm sorry it's not a walkthrough of me doing it. The guy who did it could have done a really good job of that, but I'll try and summarize as best I can. I hope it's helped. You should be able to do it from what I've shown you anyway, if you're up for it. And if you're not, probably just don't push it, don't push your luck. It is nice, the satisfaction when you think, yeah, I did it, you know, but it's not nice when you think, why did I start? And I do think it's possible to get an inkling of which territory you're going into. People say hindsight's 20/20, but sometimes I think there are plenty of times really where you get a feel for it before you go ahead, where you think, even if I get away with it, I'm not happy to take the risk. You know, whatever it's on. It's only a throttle body, but that's how I felt about it. I hope it's helped. Make a judgment call for yourself, but in the very least, you could save yourself some money by getting the parts. Plenty of places didn't have the part in stock anyway. Some had contradiction on whether or not it fit. Autodoc's really good because it will give you the part number. You got the fiche where you got the breakdown of all the parts associated. So I was able to look and see the exact not washer, but you know, like gasket, rubber gasket that I needed, or seal that I needed. When I was looking at ordering from somewhere else, I just saw a round thing. I thought that's probably the one. It wasn't the one. At the end of the day, what I got was right. So Autodoc helped with that because it enabled me, once I'd narrowed down things with a part number and all the rest of it, it enabled me to see visually, yeah, that's exactly what I need, and I should probably get one of those as well, just in case. And maybe I could even have got the bloody screws as well, you know, but that wasn't necessary, thankfully. But there it is. I'd recommend Autodoc, probably for other things as well. Loads of people seem to use it. Certainly on this, I would say if you just want to give yourself the best chance of having the least amount of aggravation, go with the Pierburg, and you should be able to save yourself 70 or 80 quid by getting it from Autodoc, sent from Germany. If you can wait a few days or so, maybe even as much as a week for it to turn up. If you've got anything to say, it'd be nice to hear from you. All right, and you can always subscribe. Who knows what I'm going to post next, but certainly like it if it's helped. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Cheers, bye. So I'd call that pretty successful. All of the throttle body stuff, all the actuator stuff, all of the manifold back pressure, all of the air boost pressure sensors, all of that sort of stuff's fine. The DPF all cleared out. I didn't even notice it regenning. There's been nothing. I've looked in the mirror, you know. There's been nothing coming out the back of the car that I can see. Performance now is nice. The acceleration is smooth and sort of as you'd expect, loads of mid-range. And basically, it's just driving. I mean, you know, you have those moments where you just fall back in love with driving again. I mean, I always love driving, but it's really nice to have this back now. So that's, I would say, definitely what the issue was. No other sort of issues as well, and no other stuff caused by it. Eventually, if you're getting a lot of back pressure, it's going to put pressure on even on the exhaust, you know, like seals and all that sort of stuff. So you don't really want to be allowing that to build up. Anyway, it's all done. And the final little thing here is I'll flip the camera around to show you where the Carli adapter, what it looks like and where it goes and stuff. So there we go. So down in the footwell, just above the bonnet release, there it is. I'll pull it out. So you just basically put it in there. There's a little flap, and then there is just a little dongle. Plugs in that way, you know, so the wider bit is towards the right, but and it's quite a tight fit, and you can close the door. It feels like you won't be able to close the door with it in place, but you can. Then you just connect with the app with the Carli app on your phone. You connect to it via Bluetooth, I guess. Then you get all the menus which I've shown. So that's how you use it. So there it is, done for the day. Really happy, very happy. Been a bit of an adventure, the whole journey of it, from it becoming a problem to getting it sorted. But thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share, do what you will. This is an E70 35D X5 BMW M Sport 2009, so twin turbo diesel, the 286 brake horsepower one, and it's now a little bit more happier with itself than it was before, and so am I. Thanks for watching. Cheers guys, bye.